Hi everyone, I'm Lori Harder, and this is your spot to reconnect to your soul and get the tips and inspiration that you need to live a life that you love. So today I want to talk to you about a really important topic that I know happens to everyone because everybody has, for the most part, social media, a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, whatever that is. And if you don't, this absolutely applies to you because it is things that happen in our life all the time, and that is what happens when people say nasty comments or mean things or things that are hurtful to you. What do you do? How do you deal with that? I think what happens to a lot of people is they think that they're completely alone in that boat when maybe somebody writes a comment underneath a post, especially if it's an inspirational post or something that maybe you're going outside of your element and really getting uncomfortable, but exposing yourself, really exposing your soul and putting yourself out there, and somebody goes and puts a comment that's hurtful right underneath it. It truly feels like a nasty, nasty punch to the gut. Like it's enough to completely stop you in your tracks and make you feel sick for the rest of the day. And I am super familiar with this. I've absolutely had this happen to me. And I want to talk about what you do when this happens. So if you don't have social media, this can absolutely happen in your daily life as well. What happens when somebody says something that is hurtful to us? So there's a couple of things that I do. And right now we're going to talk about social media. So one of the main things that I do is understand that it is never about me. So number one is always compassion. And while it's the last thing we actually want to do, because we might have a little fantasy about us kung fu kicking them to their face, we really want to switch over to compassion as soon as we possibly can. Because what happens is everybody has their own story. They have their own past. They had their own way of reading whatever you wrote for wherever they are, and it might have hit a sore spot for them. It might be something that maybe they feel guilty about, or maybe they read it completely wrong, or maybe it's just something that they have a completely skewed view on, and you have to respect where they're coming from. You have to respect their story, and you have to release it, because even though it may not have been nice and it may have been completely hurtful and rude, it's not about you. It is always about them. So really, I actually go to this place where I say to myself, it's not about me. It's absolutely like, don't make it selfish. Don't make it about you. That's flattering. It's not about you. It is their own story. It's where they are in their life. It's about releasing it and forgiving it and moving on and letting go. And a lot of times when I switch over to compassion, I can actually feel their pain, because when somebody writes a hurtful comment or a hurtful post, something that goes straight to your heart, it's because they're feeling pain. And a lot of times when people are in pain, they share that. Or they want other people to experience it without even knowing, and they don't mean to, but it's just a very natural human thing to do. So number one is always about compassion and releasing that. Number two, delete it. You have the power to delete. So out of sight, out of mind. A lot of people, will go either way, and they'll say, I'll leave it up and people can come to the rescue. But for me, the sooner that I can just get it out of my life and delete that comment and just act like nothing happened and don't invest in whatever story they're telling themselves, the sooner it's out of my life and I can move on with it. So even though it might come up in my mind a few times throughout the day, or a few hundred times, depending on what was said, it's about the fact that I can't go back to that post and keep dwelling on it and let people, keep on growing the reel, and it just expands and expands and expands and spreads. So for me, delete is the answer. If it's not for you, that's fine, but out of sight, out of mind, right? So that's my number two. My number three is to bless and release, because whatever we are focusing on is going to grow. And we know that this is absolutely true. So we have this amazing capability to choose what our focus is. And if you choose to keep on focusing what was said, it's going to grow and it's going to hurt and it's going to get more painful, and you're going to create a million stories around what was said and why you should feel bad and what you should change about yourself, when really just blessing and releasing is understanding that you need to still be that light, be that person who spreads joy and spreads love, and whatever your post was about, if that was something you wanted to post in the moment, that was you. That was your soul. That was you sharing yourself. And if it hit somebody the wrong way, that's okay. So blessing and releasing is my number 3. You have to just be okay with it, because if you're going to believe in something and if you're going to share your soul, you're always going to ruffle some feathers. And that is okay. So those are my top 3. I would love to hear what you do, because I would love to use them, and I know that this community would love to have it. So as we step into our light, as we share ourselves more, as we share our gifts, there's going to be a lot that is going to come up. So I would love to hear your tips and see if you've dealt with this before and what you have done. And for more tips, inspiration, workouts, recipes, and more, go to LoriHarder.com, and I will see you there. Mwah. Bye-bye.